Entering the season, the Utah Jazz were a team that many were finding hard to predict. Per Basketball Reference, only the Spurs had a lower over-under, and it makes sense because the only starter that remained from the playoff team was Mike Conley, as they lost Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Bojan Bogdanovic and Royce O'Neal. In exchange, the Jazz received a variety of pieces who were mostly seen as supporting guys rather than people who would push them for 50 wins again. At time of recording, the Utah Jazz are just one game back of the 6th seed in a very crowded Western Conference, and they have their offense to thank for the most part. They are 26th in defensive efficiency but 4th on the offensive side of the ball. Per cleaning the glass, they are a top 10 offense in half-court efficiency. This is helped in a large part by the fact they shoot a ridiculously high volume of threes, with only 3 teams firing more from downtown this year. In this video, I'm seeking to give credit to 2 parties mostly. Number 1 is the offensive scheme, which is incredibly well designed, but the other is of course Lauri Markkanen. I believe Markkanen should be an all-star lock for his performances so far. What I love and find so aesthetically pleasing about this Jazz team is his skill set and the scheme mesh well together, which is not a given in the NBA. Before diving into some specific plays that are run for Markkanen, I thought it would make sense to sort of dive into some stats that illuminate just how much he's improved since his Chicago days. He's in the 99th percentile for points per shot attempt at 134.8. What is highly impressive to me is that the majority of the players alongside him, they're low usage players who are just shooting spot up threes or rolling to the rim for easy buckets. He's been simply very good or elite from every area of the court. He's career best 93rd percentile from mid-range and 85th from beyond the arc, knocking down 41% of his threes. In Chicago, Lauri's major weakness was that his size had little to no impact inside the arc. He was routinely stonewalled by smaller players in the post, and the bit that worried me is that he didn't really turn his driving position into layups or even short mid-range shots. He would end up taking a lot of leaners and tough fadeaways because he struggled with physicality. This year though, he's got career highs in efficiency at the rim and from short mid-range. The reason I believe this is the case is because he's filled out his frame more and he's simply stronger and more aggressive. He's never going to be a guy who is leading the league in terms of frequency, but he's no longer a pushover. And of course, the fact he's such an elite shooter helps with those really hard closeouts, making it easier for him. Utah's diverse offense starts early in the shot clock. Only Golden State are shooting more quick threes than them. So they're going to run quick hitters such as this one for Lauri Markkanen. They're going to run delay on this play. And Jordan Clarkson curls the screen instead of going up for the handoff, and this gives Lauri an open to pop open for 3. Lauri himself is taking the most early threes for the Jazz, and he's hitting 41% on these shots. Something Utah does a really good job of on these early off-screen plays is use them to hunt and punish favourable matchups. So watch this play. So Lauri Markkanen is on the side, but Jordan Clarkson is going to dart all the way across the court to set a pin down for Lauri. And the result is a switch, and Lauri's renewed aggression is completely on show. They'd obviously identified this particular defender as the weakness, and they used a guard screen to get it. And they do this, I would say, more than any other team in the NBA. Sometimes defenses like to hide a defender on a lower usage player, and Utah does a good job not letting these teams off the hook. So on this play, Houston are going to try and hide Jalen Green on Ochai Agbaji. So the Jazz are going to use him to set an off-ball screen, but this time they punish the aggression by curling the screen and sort of knowing that Jalen Green really doesn't want any part of Lauri. They are able to punish the screen navigation of the Rockets, and Lauri gets an easy look against someone he's got a lot of height on. These face cuts and these curls are an important counter for Utah to have for Lauri Markkanen, so he doesn't just become a spot-up 4. So here they're going to run ram action, which is where there's a pick and roll, but the screener for the ball handler receives a screen. And here they use Jordan Clarkson as a screener, which is going to draw defensive attention. The low man is frozen, and Lauri takes advantage by face cutting for an easy look. They also look for these on quick out of bounds plays where they need a quick score. So here they're going to run a play where Jordan Clarkson is going to ghost screen, which means he doesn't set a screen, he just slips to punish the defender. Kelly Olynyk cuts to the far side corner, and when Lauri Markkanen face cuts here, it's going to freeze the Rockets center because he knows he has to be in the paint due to the size disadvantage, and they're going to get an open three for Kelly Olynyk. And this for me is kind of a good example of how against this Jazz team, if you treat Markkanen as just a perimeter player, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Off-screen plays in general are a gigantic part of the Utah Jazz's offense. Only Golden State runs more of them, and they're so good off of these. They don't run much ISO or high pick and roll. Their offense really is about quick screens. So look at this play. This is Horn's flare that they run for Malik Beasley. It's a very common action, and they use it to get a quick hitter for their best three-point shooter. But this is where it gets interesting. Here they're going to run the same concept against the New Orleans Pelicans, but I'll just slow this down a bit. It doesn't go to plan as the Pelicans switch it. But Mike Conley darts out and he's going to set a wide pin down for Kelly Olynyk while Malik Beasley cuts to the paint to just give Trey Murphy something to think about, and Olynyk gets a wide open three. Good offenses flow into counters with speed and precision. And here's a second counter I found that might be my favourite. Phoenix switches the flare screen on this one, but look how Utah doesn't try and force it. So Malik Beasley cuts into the paint, Clarkson receives the ball and goes the other way, and Malik Beasley comes off an exit screen. But just look how quickly they flow into these counters. Utah also mixes some on-ball stuff into this action. So here, they're going to run the same Horns outlook, but usually they just pitch it to Vanderbilt and let everyone else go to work. But Vanderbilt sees the nail help occupied and he sees Gibson deep, so he darts towards Mike Conley and they go straight into a pick and roll. The Wizards' corner defenders generally don't help, so Conley's getting an easy score or hitting Malik Beasley in the corner if they help. It's good offense. On Vando, Utah has really used him a lot more as a hub than Minnesota did. He really was just kind of a dunker spot player who cut and was there to mop up the mess, but Utah really give him some touches. And this is illustrated by a lot of their motion strong and motion weak concepts, which are Greg Popovich concepts mostly, and it makes sense that Utah run them given that that's Will Hardy's coaching tree. So here they're going to run motion weak. Now I'll always say on this channel, don't panic about naming. Motion weak is very simple. A guard is going to pitch it to a big and then cut elsewhere. So if he goes to the weak side, it's motion weak, and if he goes to the strong side, it's motion strong. Here, Colin Sexton pitches it to Vanderbilt, and this is going to be motion weak. He's going to cut off this Walker Kessler back screen, and it's going to pin the big man back, and then Utah turns this into a wide ball screen for Kelly Olynyk. Doesn't get any easier than that, guys. The most common readout of these motion concepts has always been double staggers, and Utah really runs a lot of these. Here, Kelly Olynyk is going to receive the ball, and Malik Beasley navigates a double stagger screen for an easy three. Something to note is that they very rarely will pitch it to Walker Kessler on these actions, and it's because they know that most teams are going to put their center on him, so they use him as a screener, assuming that a center is going to sit back and drop. That's why they get so many good three-pointers out of this action. And I've hinted before in this video that a lot of Utah stuff is flowing into counters, so here they're going to run this double stagger. Tobias Harris is really tight to Lauri Markkanen, so he just cuts back door for the easy finish at the rim. It's just another example of Utah being hyper efficient on these counters to protect and maximize their core plays. Now this helps flow into what I believe to be the Jazz's core action. Obviously that's always up for debate, but this is just, I think, their calling card, and that is empty side pick and roll actions. These have become very popular in the NBA over the last couple of years because help defense is limited on them, because you are essentially running the play on a side where there's only one defender there. So in an era where teams have freak athletes on the wings and they're rotating to everything, these are really good concepts. So Utah flows to these if early screens don't work, though to be fair, they will push them early on occasion. So here they're going to run a two-man game. But check out Kelly Olynyk setting a flare screen on Torrey Craig. Utah does this a lot off ball. It occupies help defenders, and that's good on any action, but to actually mix that with an empty action, it occupies everyone. It makes them even more deadly. Jordan Clarkson's going to get a wide open three here. Honestly, in NBA basketball, the most use teams have for this action is to use it as a get out of jail free card. So here they're going to initiate a pick and roll. Again, we see that flare screen, and when the blitz comes at the ball handler, they're going to get a wide open corner three for Kelly Olynyk. It's just great basketball. Sometimes they are able to create an empty side pick and roll from the middle of the floor. So here the play looks dead in my opinion, but the Jazz flow into this empty side double drag, and Lauri Markkanen gets a decent look from beyond the arc against a much smaller player, which is really what Lauri is great at, is just shooting over people who are a lot smaller than him. I want to look at this double drag that they're going to run against the Grizzlies because it shows how hard they are to defend. Memphis are quite aggressive on some of these actions because Jaren Jackson is frankly a freak of nature on that end. So here they're going to try and blitz it, but as you can see, he's trailing the play, and Malik Beasley does a really good job here slipping. So the high defender here, he has to juggle between defending that but not allowing the guard to turn the corner. And if we freeze it here, Nickeil Alexander-Walker can hit Beasley for a three or Kessler for the lob. That's just great basketball. Sometimes something teams will do strategically is try and hide their worst defender on Jared Vanderbilt because he's often lower usage and sort of lower touch than the other guys. But Utah will often counter this by having Vando actually be the empty side screener. And here they use it to pick on Montrezl Harrell, who teams are always trying to hide, and they get a wide open three on the other side of the court. Something I've noticed Utah doing a lot more lately is actually using a guard as the screener in this empty game. It forces guard defenders into areas they're uncomfortable, and that is pick and roll defense. That's usually what bigs and wings are meant to be doing. I counted against the Sixers 4 times where they did this, and here you're just going to see Jordan Clarkson nail a three on this sort of quasi pick and pop. Finally, I just wanted to bring attention to some smaller plays. Set plays and concepts are important, but often the little things are really what can flip a game because basketball's not played on a clipboard. People aren't X's and O's. You know, it's about executing counters, and that's really why I give a lot of credit to this staff. So here you're going to see Rudy Gay flash to the elbow when the Chicago Bulls try and blitz the ball handler, and it means that when Markkanen rolls, he's got a clear lane unless help defenders come to him. Like, that is just really good offense, and it's really simple. And we've seen as well that with regards to Rudy Gay here, they do a lot of clever screening actions from the elbow. So even if the roll wasn't there for whatever reason, they can flow into something else. This play to me is actually really good for illustrating 2 things. Number 1 is how much attention to detail there is from the Jazz, but number 2 is how high feel this roster is. So they're going to run this elbow set, and you're going to see not a lot's happening on that side. So Jared Vanderbilt, he doesn't wait. He quickly turns and flows into an action with Lauri Markkanen. The Hawks have to switch it, and then Vando's going to cut back door, which means that they can't switch this back, essentially, without giving Vando a wide open layup. And then they're going to go into a ghost screen action to get Lauri Markkanen open free, because Clint Capella does not want to be tracking that far. That's not what he does. And on the topic of Vanderbilt, he's always been labelled as a hustle player, but I find it a little bit disrespectful. When I've been studying this offense, he has just jumped off the screen. He's always in the right position. He always does the right thing. And he, honestly, epitomizes this roster in their high feel and attention to detail. To conclude, the Jazz are going to be as good as long as they want to be. This just isn't a team that is anywhere close to being bad enough to tank. They have a perfect mesh of floor spacing, pull-up threats, and size, but special credit really needs to go to Will Hardy because this was a tough job in my opinion, and him and his staff put the team in an incredible position to succeed. This playbook has been great from minute 1 and it's only getting deeper. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I taught you something about basketball and I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if possible. And yeah, I'm looking forward to teaching more of the game in my next videos. Thank you.